Hey guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale with another Pro Tips episode, this time showcasing the ICEFECTA. Now this deck might look kind of interesting or kind of gimmicky, like okay, the 3 ice cards, we get it, Ash, but trust me, this deck actually works. You will notice it has 2 legendary cards, actually, excuse me, 3 legendary cards, Ice Wizard, the Log, and the Miner. I will show you another variation towards the end of this episode based on Surgical Goblin's recommendations. I'm going to go ahead and play a match myself. And speaking of Surgical Goblin, he's actually won. This is not a gimmicky deck. He's actually won now 3 out of 4 grand challenges using this deck. Now, granted, he's a really good player, but still, it's something to be said that this deck is actually super viable, and you're leaning heavily on the ICEFECTA cards, the Ice Spirit, the Ice Wizard, and the Ice Golem. Defensively, offensively, your win condition is going to be the 3 Musketeers, but there is a twist. So we will get to that twist as well as cover this entire deck, go into the offensive keys, the defensive keys, and much more common mistakes. You guys know the drill by now. I'm going to stop giving this intro every single Pro Tips episode. But first, I do want to thank again Surgical Goblin. He's a great guy, great player, and I do have a really long format pro player interview coming up with him on a really cool cycle deck, a rocket cycle deck at that he just recently won first place in a 1,000-man tournament in. So that will be coming up in the next few days. Hopefully, I have a lot of great experts lined up besides just Surgical Goblin, including 2 or 3 new faces to the channel, so there's a lot to look forward to. But let's hop right into this deck and start with a general overview. First things first, let's talk about the win condition for this deck. The win condition is a little bit different, as I mentioned before, than a traditional 3 Musketeer deck. The whole philosophy behind this deck and the reason you're leaning so heavily on the ICEFECTA cards defensively is because what you want to eventually do with this deck is get to the point where you're going to play the 3 Musketeers essentially back to back, basically within a very small time frame. So what you want to spend the first half of your match doing, the first phase of your match, if you want to look at it that way, is continuing to pump up, while at the same time, as I said, using your ICEFECTA cards. They're all 3 of the best defensive cards in the game, really. Along with guards, you're going to be using the Ice Wizard, the Ice Spirit, and the Ice Golem defensively to create amazing value trades. And that's the thing about the 3 ice cards in the game, guys, is they are all absolutely perfect opportunities to create high value trades in Elixir with your opponent. I mean, think about it. The Ice Spirit might be the most valuable card in the entire game. The Ice Spirit can single-handedly, if placed properly, take out the Mega Minion, take out a mini Pekka. Speaking of mini Pekka, you have that too. A lot of defensive firepower in this deck. So you have the Ice Golem. We're going to get to the usage of the Ice Golem and the Ice Wizard in this deck when we talk about the defensive qualities of this deck and how to play the deck properly defensively. But for now, let's go ahead and start with offense. So I already mentioned in the beginning of this video what the ideal win condition offensively is in this deck. And we're going to talk about how to build up the perfect Elixir advantage throughout the course of your match when we cover the defense. But once you have achieved that Elixir advantage that you're trying to gain throughout the match, that's when you want to eventually get in the position of playing the 3 Musketeers, most likely behind your King Tower, but depending on what your opponent is doing, it might be in front as well. But you're going to be splitting your 3 Musketeers. Now, this is really important. When you're splitting your 3 Musketeers, because I asked Surgical Goblin specifically about this, especially in this deck, when you're splitting your 3 Musketeers, I guess actually in any 3 Musketeer deck now that I mention it, but he said it's very important. In fact, almost 100% of the time, he's always going to dictate his direction of the 3 Musketeers, not based on the opponent's tower health, but rather on his own tower's health. Now, that might be pretty obvious for some of you guys, but you know what? A lot of players have different philosophies. For example, what if one of your opponent's towers was at 500 HP and the other one was at full HP? It creates kind of a guessing game. Do I split my 2 Musketeers towards the 500 HP tower, or do I split my 2 Musketeers towards the full HP tower? I don't know what you guys would say for an answer, but I can tell you that adamantly, Surgical Goblin says not enough information to that question. He splits his 3 Musketeers based on his own tower health. So whatever tower he has that's lower in hit points, whatever tower he has that's been damaged damaged more, he's always going to send the single musketeer in that direction because he doesn't want to be vulnerable or leave himself open to an attack with poison or really any sort of direct damage, whether it be lightning or fireball. I think we might be seeing some more fireball with the poison nerf incoming. Time will certainly tell. In case you missed my balancing update video that will be going live, I think in 2 days now, you might want to check that out. I uploaded it today or yesterday as well. So anyway, he's always allowing his towers to dictate his split direction. Basically, you don't want to put 2 musketeers next to a tower that gives the opponent a golden opportunity to take out 2 musketeers and do a lot of damage to the tower that they're already working on. So regardless of how many hit points the opponent's tower has, unless it's the very end of the match and you just need to get that tower down and it's very low on HP. Otherwise, when choosing which direction to put 2 musketeers versus 1 musketeer, just look at your own towers, ignore the health on your opponent's towers. That's what Surgical Goblin says, and I'll tell you what, his advice is good enough for me. I will be always taking that advice to heart as well. So now you can see on the screen actually Surgical Goblin playing our very own Mark, who is a real good 3 Musketeer player in his own right. He just happened to run into him here, I guess, in a grand challenge. But you can see Mark knows he's going head to head here, and this match has been pretty much a stalemate so far. Mark actually has a little bit more damage done, and he's going for the kill shot right now here with the 3 Musketeers on that left tower. But you can see Surgical Goblin is ready there, bringing in the ICEFECTA. He used the log in combination with the Ice Spirit, Ice Wizard there, getting a lot of value there. So we will again get to the defense in just a moment here, but I just want to kind of tune into this match and give my buddy Mark a little shout out here. He wouldn't be the first person to fall victim to Surgical Goblin, I'll tell you that much. I know he would absolutely smoke me as well. So, moving on here on offense, there is a couple more things I wanted to mention before we go ahead and move on to defense and common mistakes. So, offensively, when you split your 3 Musketeers, then you have, of course, your next option. Where do you put the rest of your troops? I mean, again, it might be pretty obvious to some seasoned players out there, but what's the best combination to use your supporting troops after you've already split your 2 Musketeers and your 1 Musketeer? So, Surgical Goblin says that his absolute ideal split would consist of 2 Musketeers and an Ice Spirit in one lane, and in the opposite lane, you're obviously going to have 1 Musketeer left. He's going to send in the Miner to tank right on the tower, and then place the Ice Golem right with the 3 Musketeer. Place him right with the Musketeer. So what that's going to create is a real defensive issue for your opponent. First of all, he's going to have 2 Musketeers and an Ice Spirit to deal with in one lane, and think about the other lane. What you do when you're defending a 3 Musketeer onslaught? Well, it's pretty obvious. You use poison if you have it. If you don't have poison and they get to your side of the map, you're going to wait a second and then you're going to place guards or something on top of the Musketeers and then let the tanks do a little bit of damage to your towers, but really you have to mitigate the damage done by the Musketeers. And in the other lane, it's also a very difficult defensive situation for your opponent. You're basically putting the Miner on the tower to tank for both the Ice Golem and the Musketeer, and then when the Miner's about dead, the Ice Golem will be at the tower, essentially giving another 1,000 plus hit points for the tower to have to bleed through before it gets to the Musketeer. Now, we've talked a decent amount about the 3 Musketeers splitting and how to combo them with the tanks. Now let's talk about how we're actually going to get to the point where we're going to play a double 3 Musketeer. So picture this, you just ran the 3 Musketeers, just how we just kind of outlined things, and then you have the Elixir advantage to, as soon as your opponent counters both of those 3 Musketeer pushes, immediately you split the 3 Musketeers all over again, catching your opponent way off guard, and it's going to be very difficult for the opponent to cycle to the defensive cards they need to defend in time against that second batch of 3 Musketeers. So, how are you going to make that happen? How are you going to have enough Elixir to play 3 Musketeers, along with whatever cards you're going to be using to combo them to tank for the 3 Musketeers, and then have enough Elixir left to play 3 Musketeers again afterwards? Well, there's really two ways you're going to accomplish this. The first one is obviously pumping and pumping a ton. You want to make sure you use your Elixir Pump every single time you have a successful defense, and you should have plenty of those because this deck is an absolute defensive juggernaut. So when you have a successful defense, you cycle back to your Elixir Pump, you get it on the board. You want to get as many Elixir Pumps on the board as humanly possible. That is the name of the game with this deck. So once you're in position that you have a decent amount of Elixir Pumps on the board, more so than your opponent, even with the Elixir semi-nerf coming up, the Pump semi-nerf, you still want to make sure you have the Elixir Pump in this deck and you're still using it as much as possible. But B, the second way you're going to make that offensive win condition happen is really defensively. So that is the beauty of the ICEFECTA. So let's move on to the defensive portion of today's episode. So you have the Ice Wizard, the Ice Golem, and the Ice Spirit. The Ice Golem is mainly going to be used to kite. Kiting is the absolute best use in most cases for the Ice Golem. Only 2 Elixir, and that's over 1100 HP at tournament level standards. That's awesome, but I see a lot of people, and so does Surgical Goblin, placing the Ice Golem directly on the attacking troop when they're playing them on defense. So let me give you an example. A Musketeer, a solo Musketeer, is coming down your lane. Let's say she just crosses the bridge. Now, a lot of players mistakenly play the Ice Golem way too close to the Musketeer. That's not the correct positioning, nor is it placing the Ice Golem right in the center of the map necessarily. What you want to do is place the Ice Golem further back towards your tower. In the center of the map is okay, but you have to make sure the Musketeer targets your Ice Golem. And then what you want to do is think of the Ice Golem on defense as almost a tandem unit. Your Ice Golem is just buying you a heck of a lot of time so that your tower can kill the unit. I mean, remember, the Ice Golem obviously does not target defending units, does not target anything except for buildings. So there's no need to play the Ice Golem directly on a unit. By the time he's ready to die, by the time he's ready to explode and do that AoE damage that will be targeting air troops pretty soon, he's already going to be at the bridge area where the troops are when he's ready to die and explode. So essentially, don't place him anywhere near the unit. Place him close enough that they're going to target him and not the tower, but make sure you place him far back enough so that when he's ready to explode, he's going to hit the troops around the bridge area with the AoE damage. So you're going to be using the Ice Golem mainly for that and also for kiting. When placed in the middle of a map, for example, the Ice Golem can kite a minion horde to the center, put it in range of both of your towers, and buy you enough time to take it down, and that's another great value trade. So really lean heavily on this Ice Golem. He's an absolute fantastic defensive card. If you're not having a lot of luck with the Ice Golem, as I see some people in the comments are complaining about him, it could be because you're placing him in the wrong area and not getting all the defensive value that he offers, or it could be that maybe you're looking at him as more of an offensive card and you're not getting all the utility that he brings to the table defensively as well. So that's enough about the Ice Golem. You guys already, I'm sure, are familiar how to play the Ice Wizard, but quickly, the Ice Wizard really offers a ton of value, especially against these tanky units. Now that Poison's not going to be able to slow down your target, the Ice Wizard, I think, will be seeing a lot more love because now it actually has a role again, or at least a more unique role. And now that Poison's not going to slow down your opponent's troops anymore, you can rely on the Ice Wizard to do the same thing. Notice this deck does not have Poison in it. So the Ice Spirit, we already talked about him. He's the MVP. You can take out so much value just using your Ice Spirit to freeze the target and then relying on your tower to take it down while it's frozen. Now, on top of that, I did discuss this earlier, but you have the mini Pekka and you have the Log, both great defensive options for obvious reasons. But guys, can I direct your attention to the match on the screen that is going into overtime? It's Surgical Goblin versus Electrify. That's Pro Tip Guest versus Pro Tip Guest. And let me tell you guys, Electrify, for my money, might very well be the best player in the entire game. game. Now, I know some of you guys are going to scoff at that, but he's won so many high-profile tournaments. I can't even begin to list off the number that he's won. It's incredible. This guy's profile is absolutely stunning. Over 100,000 tournament cards and over 100,000 Grand Challenge cards. So yeah, that's a lot of cards, and he's a really good player. So this time, however, Surgical Goblin is going to get the better of Electrify, and this is very interesting using this ICEFECTA deck. So if you guys were skeptical about whether or not this deck actually works, maybe this replay is proof that yes, this deck certainly can go head-to-head with the big boys and come out on top. So Surgical Goblin takes this one. I've actually been dying to get Surgical Goblin and Electrified to go head-to-head, kind of like we did with Jordan and Dylan. That was one of my favorite episodes to make. I'll go ahead and link it in the description below in case you guys didn't take a look at it, but I would love to have a best out of 3 with Electrify and Surgical Goblin using decks that you guys request that they use. Hopefully it's something that they've shared with us in the past. But guys, as we go ahead and cover the ICEFECTA deck, what I want to do is talk about the common mistakes as I make a bunch of common mistakes, aka I'm going to go ahead and do a live attack. So what I'm going to do here is sub out the legendary cards. I'm going to leave the Ice Wizard in because it just wouldn't be right to have an ICEFECTA without the ICEFECTA. So we're going to go ahead and put a Zap in. Fire Spirits just didn't seem right in an Ice deck, so we're going to put Zap in for the Log and Knight in for the Miner. Now, Surgical Goblin actually recommends putting in guards for the Ice Wizard if you're looking for a sub for the Ice Wizard as well. So we're going to go ahead and give it our best shot, and while we play, I'm going to try to walk and chew gum at the same time. Can't guarantee the results. I'm going to cycle the Ice Spirit right onto the enemy's tower. Hopefully it hits. It does, thankfully. So we're going to make sure we follow the golden rule here and pump early and often. Hopefully this Ice Spirit doesn't hit my tower. He does not. I like that. Right now, I'm going to just combo an Ice Wizard in back of the Knight. We don't know what the opponent's playing right now, but I do want to... Oh, and there comes the Barbarians. That's no good, but the Ice Spirit actually buys me a little bit of time, doing a little damage. Now we're going to go ahead and play the Three Musketeers a little bit early on the Three Musketeers. Maybe that was a mistake. I could have obviously just played the Ice Golem and maybe the Mini Pekka instead, but maybe I'll do a little bit of damage here in the left lane. He uses Poison against my 2 Musketeers and Zap there, so it looks like I am going to get a decent amount of damage done to this left tower. I'll definitely take it. Ice Golem does next to no damage, so don't rely on him too heavily offensively. I'm going to use my Ice Wizard here, probably just sacrifice the Ice Wizard so I can get another pump on the map here. We're not doing a great job of pumping, but let's go ahead and try again to walk and chew gum at the same time and talk about some of the common defensive mistakes. We talked a lot about the Ice Golem mistakes, and there's a lot of mistakes. It's a new troop, so that's kind of expected. Gonna have to play 3 Musketeers really quickly here. He's gonna get some damage on that left tower, but again, I'm getting a little bit greedy on my 3 Musketeers here. I'm gonna go ahead and combo the Ice Golem on the right, and you can see he used the poison and pretty good poison placement, but look at that, he just missed my tower. Pretty excited about that. Another good Mega Minion play on his part, and we end up pretty much trading blows there. I did let those Barbarians get a lot of damage done to my left tower, so mistake number 1, don't let a whole horde of Barbarians get to your tower, Ash. Oh, but look at this, guys. I'm going to totally nail him right now. I'm going to play Ice after Ice after Ice. Ice Spirit, Ice Golem, and Ice Wizard. This is the ICEFECTA, guys, and he plays Barbarians and Archers, but I'll tell you what, look at that. Mini Pekka leading the way. He's going to get a couple blows on that tower. Ice Golem on the tower. This is awesome. Now that is an ICEFECTA. 2 Ice Wizards, Ice Spirit, Mini Pekka, and Knight. Now we're just going to go ahead and play the 3 Musketeers right in the center here. Hopefully take down this right tower. Just about. Am I gonna get it, guys? Oh, very close, but no cigar. Now let's just kind of play around here. Oh, that was an awful Ice Golem placement on my part. Oh, and look at this. I just compound by my mistake by adding the Ice Wizard up there as well. Luckily, it looks like those Barbarians are in range of my tower, so all is not lost here. I'm gonna rely on these 3 Musketeers to take down this Golem, and they will get the job done. It was not too pretty towards the very end there, but I'm gonna play the Mini Pekka to take down that right tower. And it looks like I pick up the W, and it's without the Log and the Miner, so definitely can have success with this as well. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, had a lot of fun bringing this one to you. Oh my god, 3 Clash Royale videos in one day today. I don't even know where I find the time. I mean, granted, one of them was an unboxing. By the way, guys, stay tuned for more information about the Kings Cup event in LA. Should be a real good time, and I hope some of these expert top players can meet me there. It would be really cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about playing this deck and trying it a few times with the Mega Minion as well, but I won't keep you guys any longer. Already getting a bit long, and I do have to continue painting my new house. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and as always, take care, guys.